everyone, welcome to Little Voices Big Questions. I'm Austin. And I'm Amelia. We may be little, but we have big questions. On this show, we talk to athletes, business owners, and inspiring people to find out where they got where they are today. Because we believe that no dream is too big, no matter how young you are. So get ready for fun, inspiration, and some big questions. Let's jump into today's interview. Today, we have an absolutely amazing guest. Someone who has made history over and over again. She's not just a wrestler, she's a world champion, an Olympic champion, and one of the toughest athletes on the planet. That's right, she started wrestling when she was just 4 years old, and has been dominating ever since. She's won gold at cadet, junior, U23, and senior world champions. And in 2024, she became the youngest American wrestler to ever to win an Olympic gold medal. But her story is even bigger than wrestling. She's overcome challenges, shown incredible resilience, and stayed strong even when things got really tough. She's here today to share her journey, her mindset, and maybe even some wrestling secrets. Get ready, because this is going to be an awesome episode. Please welcome to the show, Amit Elor.
Hi, I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Amit, before we get started, we just wanted to know what's something that made you smile today?
I had to take a cold bath, which athletes do for recovery to help with sore muscles. And my friend was absolutely freezing. She was shivering. And so we were all kind of laughing just because her reaction was really funny.
That's really funny. My friend also told me a bunch of really funny jokes at my gymnastics practice, and that made me smile and laugh.
Austin, did anything make you smile today?
Probably when my teacher told me that I got 100 on my math test.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you, Amit. Let's jump into some of our questions. So you started wrestling when you were just 4 years old. Do you remember the moment you fell in love with the sport?
I don't think there was a specific moment, but I think compared to any other sport I've seen, wrestling just looked so fun. I first saw wrestling because my older brother, who is about 10 years older than me at the time, he started wrestling in high school, and I was 4 years old. So I would go with my mom to watch his practices, and I was so jealous of him. I wanted to go on the mat and do what he was doing. It just looked so fun. But at the time, women's wrestling, girls wrestling, it just wasn't as popular or well known. And so my mom was a little hesitant. But after many weeks of asking her if I could wrestle, and then also asking the coaches if I could wrestle, eventually they allowed me and I started wrestling. And it was immediately so fun. I loved it instantly.
That's really cool. My little sister also really likes to watch me do my gymnastics.
Maybe you'll inspire her to do gymnastics too one day.
She's already starting the little kids gymnastics.
Awesome.
You won world champions at every level, cadet, junior, U23, and senior, and even got at the Olympics. Which title means the most to you and why?
Which level meant the most to me? Okay. I think they were all very meaningful for me. Every single accomplishment was just one step of the way, and at the time, it meant so much to me. If you ask me that currently, I have to say that the Olympics was the most meaningful for me because that was my ultimate goal ever since I was a little kid. It was my biggest dream. And so, yes, the Paris Olympics was the most meaningful achievement so far.
It's also my dream to one day make it to the Olympics.
Yeah? Wow. In gymnastics? That's amazing.
So at the Olympics, what was going through your mind at that final gold medal match?
Well, I had a whole summer, many, many months of preparation leading up to it to prepare both physically and mentally. So once I was there, actually what was going through my mind was I was telling myself to just have fun and to just go out there and wrestle, because at that point I knew that I already did everything I could to prepare and to be my very best. So there was no reason to be stressed. It was just down to going out and wrestling and doing what I've done almost my whole life. So because of that, I not only achieved my goal, but I also had a lot of fun.
Did you know that you were going to wrestle someone did you know who you were going to wrestle before you went out on that match?
Yes. In the Olympics, there are 16 people per weight class, per bracket. And so months before, we know who is in our division. And then a few days before, we know who's on our side of the bracket, who we're most likely to wrestle. So that whole entire day, which was the second day of wrestling, I made the finals the previous day. So I knew that I just had one match at night, and that was the finals match. So at that point, I knew all I need to do is win one more match, and then I can make it to the top of the podium.
That's cool. So, who encouraged you the most during the Paris Olympics?
What did you say?
Who encouraged you the most during the Paris Olympics?
Oh, I think my biggest supporter throughout my whole entire wrestling career, but also leading up to the Paris Olympics, was my mom. I've had many different coaches, role models, trainers, but everybody, my mom is the one who has always stuck with me, always supported me, no matter what my decision was. And I'm just very lucky to have her. She's been to almost every single competition I've gone to. And I've been wrestling since I was 4 years old, and I'm 21. So that's many years of commitment from her side. She also has 6 kids. So I'm just one of 6, yet she was still able to have the time to go and watch my competitions, talk to other coaches, look for training opportunities. She made a huge impact on my wrestling career.
I bet your mom is really helpful and supportive with all that you do.
She is.
Can you share a moment when you wanted to quit, but you pushed through?
So I've actually had many moments like that over the years for different reasons, whether it was injuries or maybe a tough practice environment where I just didn't feel comfortable or didn't feel welcome. But what I did is I just pushed those thoughts aside and I told myself, just try again, try again, try again. And then eventually, when I didn't give up and I kept trying, I started to feel better. And then I felt such a huge sense of accomplishment, because when everything goes easily, you're winning, you don't have a lot of competition, you don't really feel as much accomplishment as you do when you really struggle. You almost give up. You had so much you overcame, yet you still made it to the top. So for me, when I had those tough moments that I wanted to quit, but I continued, those were the most meaningful to me, I think.
Yeah, that's really cool, and that's really strong. Wrestling looks like a sport where you can't avoid injuries. When you do get one, how do you
There's a lot of different things that you have to do to recover from an injury, and it really depends what kind of injury. Some injuries might take a few days, a few weeks, a few months. Some might even require having a surgery. So it really depends, but I think first off, you have to accept the fact that you got injured and you can't stress over the past or over any mistake you might have made that caused the injury. Instead, you just need to accept where you are at the moment. Say, okay, I'm injured. What is it that I can control and what is it that I can't? Well, I can still try to get better at my sport by watching my teammates train, watching videos of competition. I can still keep my body in good shape. And let's say I hurt my leg. I can still train my upper body. I can still do my core. I can still do so many things. So it's basically, what can I do at this moment? And then, of course, it's taking advice from all the people around you, your coaches, doctors, and just making sure that every day you do your very best to recover and get.
So what was your worst injury that you had?
My worst injury was probably a herniated disc in my back. So our vertebrae, our spine, is made up of, in between every vertebrae is like a disc, which is kind of like this soft cushion that prevents the bones from hitting each other. But when that disc gets herniated, that cushion between the vertebrae, it kind of slides out a little bit, which can cause a lot of pain and could be very serious. Luckily for me, it wasn't anything life-threatening, but I did have very bad pain for about 2 years, and it really restricted my movement. And so it was really difficult because not only did it affect wrestling and training, but just my quality of life in general. Like it would really hurt when I would sit down. So on planes, I would just be in a lot of pain, really uncomfortable. When I studied and did homework, I would try to stand if I could. I wouldn't. And so when I dealt with that injury, it was really tough for me because I had to ask myself, is it worth continuing when I had something this bad for my sport? And that was before I ever won a world championship. At the time, I was just a world bronze medalist when I was dealing with that. But I overcame it. I actually did end up having a back surgery, very, very minor, minimally invasive. But I did look at all my other options before physical therapy, all sorts of things. I overcame it, and then I went on to win all of these world championships and then eventually the Olympics. But if you look back and you ask the version of me that was going through that injury, do you think you'll continue wrestling? Do you think you're going to win? I would have told you, no way. There's no way. I doubt it. I think my career is over. So it's just interesting the way your mindset can shift over time. And when you're in a specific place, just know that that's a certain moment in time, and that it will.
Does it still affect you too?
That in No, luckily I am almost completely pain free. I would say that I did make a lot of adjustments because of that injury and because of other injuries. I've learned how to take care of my body better, be more careful in training, because there's a difference between training and competition. Training, you want to try and work as hard as you can while also protecting yourself, because if you train too hard and you don't recover and you don't rest and you just do too much, sometimes you can get injured, and because of that, you'll miss competitions and you won't be able to train. So it's better to do just the right amount rather than too much. And that's something I've unfortunately learned the hard way through injuries.
Wrestling is as much as a mental battle as a. What's your secret to staying confident and focused in high pressure?
So I've definitely struggled a lot with confidence over the years. I would have these thoughts, telling myself, oh, you're not good enough. You're really bad at this, you're bad at that. Oh, it's going to go so poorly. So what I do instead is almost like fake it till you make it. On competition day, I keep telling myself these really positive thoughts. Every quality I have, every skill, every move that I know I'm good, I keep telling myself that. I'm like, you're the best. You're going to win today. Even if I don't believe what I'm saying, I still tell myself, because in some ways, even if you don't fully believe it, it does have an effect on you, and it does give you some form of confidence. And I just try to be extremely positive. You will feel stress, you will still feel adrenaline, that's normal, and it actually helps you perform. One competition I had no adrenaline at all. I didn't feel stressed. I walked out to wrestle my match very calm, and I actually performed very badly. So after that, I learned that it's actually good to be stressed during competition, just not too much, just the right amount so that you can use adrenaline but still be focused to go out.
Did someone teach you how to?
I've gotten a lot of advice as far as the mental side of competition and everything from many different people. No one really specific. I think a lot of it I've just learned through experience, through competing years and years and years, having good experiences and bad experiences, taking that and using it to perform better.
When I'm nervous, all the bad thoughts in my mind, I would replace it with, instead of I can't do it, I can.
That's really good. Yeah, exactly.
The opposite of the opposite of the bad things that will happen.
Yeah.
Most people listen to hype when they train, but you like listening to sad music while running. Why does that help you focus?
I think everybody is a little bit, and everybody has different forms of motivation. For me, I just tend to feel more when I listen to sad music rather than really hype music. But I actually listen to different music depending on what I do. When I run, I can actually listen to very slow music, because instead of focusing on the pain and the discomfort of running, instead I just listen to the lyrics, even if they're very slow. But generally, sad songs have very meaningful, deep lyrics. And so when I listen to them, I tend to feel more than when I listen to some song with a good beat that kind of repeats the same words, even if they're positive. I generally feel emotion, and that kind of motivates me and pushes me to run even harder when I listen to sad things. It is strange, but I do know that other people out there do like to listen to sad music. That's a good.
So before each, we listen to songs that will motivate us on the way.
That's really good. Yeah, that can make a huge difference. I like to do that too. The only thing is, when it gets closer to the time that I need to, I stop listening to any music, because I like to get used to the sound of the arena or the event center, so that get used to it and just feel comfortable with it, because sometimes when I'm listening to music, especially with noise canceling headphones or AirPods, and I take it off, it's just too much of a sensory shock when I hear, the sounds of people cheering, coaches yelling, things like that. And so I like to maybe about an hour before have no music and just get used. But everybody's different. There's other Olympians, Olympic gold medalists that listen to music until the very last moment. It's you just have to learn what works.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your pre-match routine?
All right. So I usually show up about an hour before my match. We do get there earlier in the day because wrestlers need to weigh in the morning of the competition just to make sure that everybody fits into the same weight. So after I weigh in, I usually drink a lot of water. I eat a lot of things that have high carbs to give me quick energy so that I can feel explosive and fast and energetic. Then I'd say I show up about an hour and a half. I stretch a lot, make sure my body feels loose. That helps prevent injuries. And then about an hour before my match, either on my own or with a coach or with a training partner, I will go through what's called a competition. So that is a little bit like a wrestling practice, but it's more specific to just preparing for competition. And one thing that we say in wrestling, which I think other sports might have, is just get that first match out. So our goal is to go over our favorite attacks, our favorite moves, kind of simulate really quick things that we will have to deal with during. And then we'll probably have 2 or 3 minutes of very high intensity wrestling to get our heart rate up, get us breathing really hard. So that way, when we have our actual match, it won't shock our body if we weren't to have done that.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really smart. Our dad also likes to get there early. He says if you're not early, then...
Yeah, that's a...
Mm-hmm. Your family has faced some really tough losses with the passing of your brother and then your father not too long after. Have those experiences shaped you as a person and an athlete?
Yes, they absolutely have. Both experiences definitely changed me as a person and then in turn as an athlete very differently. Definitely changed. Loss is something that really impacts your whole life, your whole family. But for me personally, I think actually wrestling and being in my sport is what helped me cope with those losses. I think if I didn't have wrestling, it would have been a lot more difficult dealing with the loss and everything that comes with it. So I was feeling bad, upset and sad. I would just go to wrestling, and in that moment, at least in that an hour and a half or 2 hours that I was wrestling, all of my thoughts went away. I was just there in the moment training. Obviously, it was still a very difficult process. You would come home, feel sad again, think about all of these things. But luckily, I had wrestling, which was kind of like an escape for me.
I bet that was really hard to push. So you shared before publicly about your Holocaust survivor grandparents and great. How does their story motivate you when you're training?
It motivates me a lot. Growing up, I would hear a lot of stories about both my grandparents, and it would just make me feel so much stronger to be related to survivors, and I would just remember their stories and compare it to what I'm going through in my life, and it would be nothing compared to what they went through. And so that would motivate me to continue working, go to practice even when I'm tired, even when I don't feel good, because I knew that if they were strong, that I could also.
That's really hard to go through. If you could wrestle against any athlete in history, past or present, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh, that's a really good question. I don't know if you would say in a competition environment in a match, but we just lost in the wrestling community. I believe it was a few weeks ago, one of the greatest wrestlers in history. I can't pronounce his first name, but everybody calls him Sativ. And he was one of the most amazing wrestlers ever, had such a unique style in the sense that, most wrestlers bend down and they're very defensive and they're kind of fighting each other, right? This guy was so good and confident at wrestling that he would just stand straight up and let people attack his legs because he was so good at countering moves and using their attacks against him that he could just take everybody down. Nobody could stand a chance against him. And so I've never gone to meet him. Unfortunately, he did pass away. But if I had the opportunity to be able to wrestle him, that would be a very cool experience.
Do your brothers and sisters also wrestle?
Yes. So my brother, Ori, which is the second oldest in our family, he was the first one to start wrestling. But then very quickly after, my older sister, Wani, also started wrestling in high school. And I'm the youngest by a lot. So they were in high school, but I was still like 4, 5, 6 years old. And then eventually my other brother, Aviv, started wrestling. And then my other brother, Shri, started wrestling. So the only person who didn't wrestle out of the 6 of us was the oldest. She had other things. She was into fencing and running and swimming, but wrestling just wasn't for her. But out of 6 of us, 5 of us at some point did wrestle. So it's pretty.
Do you still wrestle them now?
Oh, most of them don't wrestle anymore, except we, which he actually came with me to Paris for the Olympics, and he helped me a lot with diet, nutrition, but also with training, but not necessarily wrestling, but more just like high intensity training, things with bands and bikes and different like off the mat kind of cardio things to get me more in shape and help me get down in weight, because unfortunately that's something wrestlers have to worry about too. But he still wrestles, not competitively, but for fun. And so I do get to wrestle him. However, everybody else, I have not seen them on the mat in a while.
What was one of your favorite things doing at Paris, other than winning?
Oh, that's a very hard question, because Paris was so amazing and there were so many different experiences and things about Paris that it's almost so hard to choose what was my favorite. But if I could mention one thing, it was for sure just getting to be in the Olympic Village. It is a very cool experience because it's like this enclosed little neighborhood where every single building is its own country. And you're just walking around and you have the greatest athletes in their sport from countries all over the world just walking around. All of these incredible athletes. Just being in that environment was really, really cool and surreal. But one thing I could point out is there was this very viral chocolate muffin that they had in the cafeteria in Paris in the Olympic Village. And it was endless. You could eat as many chocolate muffins as you wanted, and there would still be more. They were there all day, and they were offered all over the village, like not just in the cafeteria. You would walk around, and there were many different stands where you could get croissants and chocolate muffins and cappuccinos and hot chocolate and ice cream. Basically, you think athletes eat healthy, but athletes also burn a lot of calories and they train really hard. So they also eat a lot more than the regular person. And because of that, there was really good food and pastries and treats all over. But these chocolate muffins specifically really stood out. They were very chocolatey and very gooey, and there was a lot of hype over them. Like a lot of different athletes started making videos about it, and then the whole world was like, what's so special about these chocolate muffins?
Since you already won the Paris Olympics, what's your next big?
My next big goal is, well, if we're talking really big goal, my next big goal is to make it to the LA 2028 Olympics. That's very special for me because I'm from California. So it's not just an Olympics here in the US, but in my own state. So that's very, very special. And I'll continue training very hard in hopes that I can make it and hopefully earn another gold medal.
So what amazed you? Like, who did you meet that amazed you the most while you were in Paris?
So there are Olympians, right? Kind of like me, who just made their first Olympics. They aren't really well known, haven't really won a medal or anything like that. And then there's those celebrity Olympians that even outside of their sport, they're just full on celebrities, like LeBron James, Simone Biles. And so it's interesting because you walk around the Olympic Village and there's these regular Olympians, and then there's these celebrities. And so the celebrities were getting ambushed by the regular Olympians. They were just surrounding them, asking for pictures, this and that. So here and there, I did see these really amazing celebrity athletes, but only a few I got to actually meet or take a picture. I did get to have a picture with LeBron James. He was the flag bearer at the Olympics for the opening ceremony, which was very special because normally for the opening ceremony in the Olympics, it's very common that all the athletes walk in a big circle. They do like a march around an arena. But for Paris, instead, every country had its own. And the boats did a circle around the Seine, which is the river that is in Paris. And so that was really cool. And so at the front of every boat was a flag bearer, a flag bearer and a female flag.
I really hope to meet Simone Biles anywhere. Actually, I really want to meet Stephen Ross. So, for young wrestlers who want to reach your level, what's the number one piece of advice that you would give?
I think show up and train hard every single day. Consistency definitely creates the greatest results over, saying, oh, I'm going to train as hard as I possibly can. And then you burnt out, and then there's gaps. And so it's just making goals for yourself and committing to them no matter what, no matter how you feel, no matter what happens. And then learning over time, discipline, not just relying on motivation, but learning to be disciplined and telling yourself, okay, every day I'm going to make sure I eat fruits and vegetables. I'm going to make sure I do my off the mat training. I'm going to go to practice and give it my all. I'm going to make sure to focus. I'm going to make sure that every single rep I do, every exercise, I try my very best. And then you finish the day, you wake up, it's another day, and you do the same thing again. And that's truly how you see progress. You're not going to see anything major overnight or right away, but suddenly months are going to pass, years are going to pass, and you're going to look back and remember the older version of yourself, and you're just going to be shocked by all the improvement and all the changes that.
We also write down our goals in the morning and in the afternoon. And we write down our goals and then also write what we're going to do to get that goal and consistent. We have one big dream goal, and then we would at least have to look at that every day.
Oh, I love that. That's really.
Do you write down your?
I have a lot of teammates that write down their goals. Me personally, I keep more of a verbal log of it, I guess. I tell my favorite people, I tell my mom, my coaches, my friends, I tell them my goal pretty much, daily or pretty commonly I talk. And they hold me accountable for sure. So it's a little bit different. Some people do better, note-taking, writing down their goals. I've tried it. It really varies from person to person, athlete to athlete, but I think that's such a good thing that you.
Thank you. Okay. So now before we get to our final question, we would like to close out the show with some Spitfire questions. These questions are meant to be answered quickly. Are you ready?
Oh, okay. I'm ready.
What's your favorite color?
Blue.
What's your favorite animal?
Dogs.
Where's your favorite vacation spot?
Italy.
What's your favorite song?
Oh my goodness. The most meaningful song to me is probably Hall of Fame by The Script.
What's your favorite movie?
When I was younger, it was definitely Matilda. Currently, I would have to say still Matilda. It's hard to choose.
What's your favorite candy?
I love candy. Let me think. What
is one thing you cannot live without?
Oh. I mean, my initial thought was food. Just like in general, I think as an athlete that has to diet a lot, it's pretty amazing just to eat enough and what you want to eat.
That was fun and great job staying on your toes.
Thank you.
For our final, we would like to ask all of our guests the same question. If you could go back in time, what would you tell your younger self?
Not to be so stressed over everything, and that everything will work out in the end, and that I don't need to be perfect. I would always beat myself up over every little thing, every little mistake, always wanting to be perfect, always wanting to get 100% on every test. But at the end of the day, the most important thing, you keep trying and you give it your all. Everything you do your very best. And you also need to make sure to have fun and enjoy the process, because if that's all you do is, everything is miserable, you're not having fun, then at some point you will burn out. So it's also making
That's really good, and especially for the younger people be like you. That was such an awesome conversation. A big thank you to Amit Elor for sharing her story with us. Amit, is there anything you'd like to add? Or if maybe people wanted to learn more about you, where should they go?
Yes, well, you can always Google my name. It's Amit Elor, AmitElor. I have an Instagram account that I post a lot of funny videos, motivational videos, hype videos, different things. And that is at Amit Elor1. And I also have a TikTok and a Facebook. And I also have a TikTok and a Facebook and a YouTube that is similar. And you
We learned so much today, and we hope you did too. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us so you never miss an episode of Little Voices, Big Questions. And remember, no matter how little your voice is, your questions can change the world. See you next time.